nutritionally. I've never had like eating disorders, quite the opposite. I love to eat. I'm Colombian and food's a huge part of my culture and I love to eat. But I was not being good and intentional to my body. So that was the first thing, was that I was very depleted, had 4 kids very close together. You know, like I said, when I got diagnosed, I had 4 kids under the age of 7. So we're talking about having a child every 2 years. Between the middle ones, it was 3 years apart, nursed them all. And of course, after I had a baby, because, you know, I'm Superwoman, you know, I would just not even take the time to honor my body for what it had gone through and give it that time to heal. I'm like, pop this baby out, pop my back into my pants. Let's go. Like, let's take the stroller and go to the park. Like I had newborns, like people were shocked. Like I had babies like days old in a little sling going off to like Target or something. And I carried that like as a badge of honor. I thought I was so amazing. And here I am, like, had zero awareness of any of this, of how to treat my body.
It's not, you know, who do we have out there that's telling us that we need to take a break? We live in a society that's all about the more you do, the better you are, do more, you know, be here, be Superwoman, have a job, have a career, have kids, do it all. So it's not counterculture to do what you did. Did at any time, so very, you know, you're depleted nutritionally, you've had 4 kids in a very concentrated period of time, plus you add all of these life stresses on top of that. You get your diagnosis and you start seeing you mentioned an Ayurvedic doctor. What made you decide to go that route versus going to the traditional medicine route?
So the Ayurvedic doctor came much later that first year of my diagnosis. So what happened was, I used to work for the Washington Times in DC, and they would send me to cover their international projects. So it was a journalist and a marketing director, but we worked very closely together. And something happened to me when I got diagnosed. I went home, I cried for hours, and I did the worst thing you can do, go on the internet and Google multiple sclerosis. And I see, you know, people's videos, like, it's just awful. I wake up every morning, I don't know what symptom going to have. It was just like depressing after, you know, hopelessness. It was like, oh my gosh. And I was so depressed. So I would go to school, never forget, to drop my kids off with this triple stroller. So 3 kids sitting in a stroller and 1 on the back. Right. You know, here I am. And I had my glasses on from crying all morning. And this mom comes up and goes, oh my gosh, you always look so cute. How do you do that? Like, you always look great. And I'm like, if you only knew like what I'm going through right now, like, it's just, it was so bad. And so I just remember, I'm thinking of a specific day because I went home and I was, I thought, you know, my life is over. Like, I will never be able to take care of my kids. Like, why would God give me 4 kids if I'm going to be in a wheelchair and can't take care of them? And I'm in this space. And my husband sits me down and he says, we'll be married 20 years in May. He's an amazing man. And he said, Aurora, I understand you're going to mourn your health. I know this is hard for you. It's hard for all of us, but you need to trust God in what he has in this. And you need to just give this to him and let him guide you. And I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, that's who I thought I would be if I had a diagnosis like this. And I am not that person. I'm like pissed off. I'm scared. I'm on the computer all the time crying, like, you know, crazy. And at that moment, I made this active choice to say, okay, God, I don't want this. I don't know why you're giving this to me, but I'm not going to go this way anymore. I'm going to go this way. So if you're going to do this, like, help me out. Like, it was like that kind of prayer.
Were you always a person of faith?
I have. I've always been a person of faith. I think, I'm a person, I've always been a person of strong faith when things are going great. And at the time, like, things would go bad and I wouldn't turn to God. I realized that this was like my big wake up call in the spiritual sense that, wow, like, I'm angry and I'm, you know, I'm not trusting God like I thought I would with what I know in my faith and, you know, and who I know God to be is what I've learned through my faith. And so I for the first time in my life, I really just kind of gave up and surrendered because what other choice do I have? I mean, honestly, what am I going to do with this terrible diagnosis, you know? And it was at that time I really felt like God was like, okay, girl, let's go. It took me by the hand and like started leading me on this journey, which was so incredible. So the first thing I did is I thought, okay, I need to find out about this disease. I need to find out what medications they're taking, what this looks like to live like this. So I wasn't on social media at the time. I sent an email to my whole email list and I said, look, this is what's happened to me. this is what diagnosis is. Do you know anyone that has MS? And people started writing back. There's a mom at the school. There's my aunt in Australia. Oh, this guy just taught this finance class at church and he mentioned he had it. And I just started writing, the kind of like my whole journalist stuff came back from back in the day. And I just started writing their names, and I would call or meet with them at coffee or whatever, Skype with them or whatever it was I had to do to get their story.
Yeah.
Connecting. And what happened, and it's so crazy because during this whole remodel where I found the big x-ray, I also found the notebook that I have with all of these notes in it. And it was 35 people that I spoke to. I always thought it was 30, but it was 35 people I spoke to. And I asked them the same question. When did you get this? What are your symptoms? What are you doing? Where are you now? And they're telling me their story, and I just write. And after getting all this information, I found out everyone had MS, was on medication. And 10, 15 years later with MS, they not just had MS now, they had MS and fibromyalgia or MS and rheumatoid arthritis. They would take their medication on a Friday because they'd be really sick on Saturday. By Sunday, kind of felt like they had the flu. So Monday, they could go back to work. I'm like, I don't want to live like this. And I just started really doubting the medicine part and wondering, what are my options here? And so one of the people I interviewed, they took medication, but they also went to this holistic center in Encinitas, which is here in San Diego area. And they said, I'm on medicine, but I go to this place, they teach me how to eat and what supplements to take to help me. And I was like, what? Like, what does food and the supplement have to do with this? Like, it's a disease. Like, it just kind of gets popped on you and you have it, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And that really intrigued me. So I thought to myself, after I had gone to a few doctor's appointments, they kept going, did you choose on medication? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know yet. And they're like, you have to go on a medication. Like, if you don't go on a medication soon, you're not going to be able to take care of your kids in the future. This is serious. And it's going to move really fast.
By the way, during this time, not to interrupt you, but did your blindness go away? Was your come back?
No, I'm still blind this whole time. Okay. And that's part of my story, which is really incredible. So I'm still blind this whole, remember, I was told I would never get my vision back. So during this time, I saw 3 of the top neurologists in San Diego. Okay. One was an MS specialist. So these are people who, within the medical community are very respected within this field. Everyone, same thing. Wheelchair, medications, progressive, no cure, lesions, like you're screwed. So after 30 days of blindness, I say, okay, my last resort is going to be going to this place this guy told me about. Like, if they don't tell me something different, I'm going to have to just pick a medication and see what happens with this. So I walk into this holistic center. I had no idea about alternative medicine, holistic medicine, functional medicine, zero, nothing. Okay. I walk in and there's people like hooked up to IVs, getting vitamin A or whatever, vitamin B drips, whatever they're doing there. It just seems so weird to me. I was so creeped out. Didn't feel like a doctor's office. I wasn't sure what I was stepping into. And I go there and I get seen by the doctor there. And he tells me to lay down on this table after I tell him what had happened to me. And he starts massaging my neck. So at this point, I'm weirded out. I pop up. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't need a massage. Like, I'm sick. I need help. I have kids. I'm blind. I'm going to be in a wheelchair. And he goes, you don't understand. Your optic nerves connect through your neck. And by doing this, it helps to stimulate your sight back. And then they did all these tests and all this. And he said, you are so deficient in so many minerals and vitamins. You need to take these supplements. You need to eat an anti-inflammatory diet, which looks like this. And there's a lot of hope within this. And you should really look into, he told me about this other doctor that's online named Dr. Mercola, who's a very well-known,
we know him well.
Holistic doctor. Yeah, I have a great story. That's part of my story with him. And so I walked out of there and I'll never forget, because it never rains here really. And we had just moved here, so I hadn't seen like a really rainy day. And coming from like Miami and the East Coast area, it was weird, like never rained. That day it was dark and it was pouring. And I walked out of there sobbing. And I remember sitting in my car and just like shaking, crying, holding this bag of supplements that was like a couple $100, having paid money I don't have at the time to these crazy doctors. Because unfortunately, in this country, that is never covered by any type of insurance, alternative care like that. And I just felt so hopeless. I'm like, I just got conned by these crazy holistic people. And that's how, desperate I am. Like, this is so sad. And I went home and I thought to myself, I've never really like taken care of myself like this. I thought about that this would even matter. So I might as well just try it. So I started following all the little things. Like in the morning, you're going to do this. You're going to eat this. And at this time, you're going to take this supplement.
By the way, what did they give you? What did they tell you should take?
You know, it was a lot of mineral deficiencies I had. I remember having a mineral supplement. I was completely vitamin D deficient, which again, root cause of most people with a diagnosis. Most people, yeah, if you have anything from the cold to the flu to cancer, you're vitamin D deficient, right? So it's something to really look into, which is so interesting because I've always lived in kind of sunny areas like Miami. We lived in upstate New York for a very short time in here, and I wasn't outside a lot. So I thought that was strange. But when you're autoimmune, your body doesn't process vitamin D from the sun the same way. Yeah. It's very different. So these are all things I've learned along the way. So I started just following these things and, eating like whole foods, like plant-based foods and just following everything he told me within a few days, okay, of just feeding my body this way, I start seeing like these weird little like sparks of my eye. And so I get excited and I call my neurologist. I'm like, I'm seeing these sparks in my eye. What is that? And he goes, that's just like your nerves firing off after what's happened to you. So don't get excited. Your vision is gone. It's been over 30 days now. Your vision's gone. I'm like, okay, doctor's always right. So then,
Nelly,
So then that's why I always say, look, doctors are amazing people, but they don't know everything.
Yeah.
And you can't always believe everything they're telling you. And sometimes they're not trained in a lot of these things. They're trained to put you in a box of symptoms, medicate you and diagnose you, and the next person comes into the office. And, that's what they're trained to do, is help people in that way, which doesn't always help everybody, a lot of people. So then, a meeting like this and another week goes by and it starts happening more. So I'm seeing more light. Now I'm seeing color and the color's blurry. Then a few more days, everything's clear. 2 weeks after that little massage and just eating, nourishing my body, in this way that I was taught, anti-inflammatory and the supplements, my vision wasn't just back. It was back better than before. Because remember I mentioned to you, I was due for a checkup on my contacts. I went in for an eye exam and the doctor said, oh, we need to increase the prescription in your right eye because your eyesight went up. And I'm like, excuse me? I was just blind in that right eye. And that was the moment for me that I was like, I am 100% in. Like I was literally blind. Now I can see. All these top doctors and specialists and all these professionals, experts in this field told me I would never get my vision back. 3 of them, of the top ones, I can see. So there's something they don't know. There's something they're not telling me. I'm going this way. And that was it for me. I just 100%, I followed everything they were telling me. And so I went on, I looked up Dr. McCullough. Dr. McCullough at the time had an article breaking down all the MS medications and what they really do to your body. Like this one, it causes liver failure, just breaking it down.
Right.
And at that moment with that article, I said, I will never go on medication. I'm not doing it. It doesn't make sense to me. And it's so cool because when I read that article, 5 years later, I was doing so great. And I remember telling myself, it was like so crazy. Like it wasn't even like a prayer. I just kind of said out loud, like, God, I hope one day I can meet him and thank him for that, because that like really was a catalyst for not saying no to the medication, on top of what I was taught at this place in Encinitas. And I got that moment a few months ago, actually at an event I was at a health event. I met Dr. McCullough and we cried together and I got to tell him, thank you for writing that article and putting that information out to let people know that there's another way, Absolutely. So it was really amazing. So then that was the point I decided no medication. I kept up with the diet changes. My body was healing. And as the months went on, instead of getting sicker and weaker, as I was told I was going to get, I kept feeling healthier and stronger. And I was so confused and my doctors are so confused. So I kept hearing, you're just getting lucky. It's just a matter of time. Sometimes this happens. And I just knew that I was doing the right thing. And it got to a point where my doctors, one of them fired me. The other one got so mad at me. He said, I'm the top doctor in San Diego for the past blah, blah years. And you're trying to tell me you're going to eat your way out of this? I'm like, actually, yes, I am.
Wow.
But it's, just even looking back, like I'm 35, our life is like, does not look positive. I never thought we'd be where we are now. I mean, with business and everything that's happened over the years, like things are really looking bad. And I had this confidence in me that I knew that I was right.